All right, all right, all right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mining My Mind on Closing the Gap Broadcast Network. I am Sister Anissa Muhammad, and I am the face behind Mining My Mind. And my special guest is Sister Shawntell Muhammad from out of Chicago, Illinois. I want to give praise and I want to give thanks right now to God, Allah, for allowing me to come to this particular point and juncture in my journey of life. And I want to thank Closing the Gap Broadcast Network for allowing me on this spectacular platform. So today, our topic is what is food? Sister Shawntell and I are going to just talk about different aspects of food because there are people who are suffering from medical conditions, and those medical conditions are related to the foods that they eat. And contrary to popular belief, it may not be that they're eating fast food. It may not be that they're eating processed food. It may be rooted according to nutritional deficits, nutritional inadequacies, not knowing how to cook the food properly. But we have to learn to connect the dots between what it is that we're eating and what it is that we are actually calling food, because what we're calling food may not be food. So let's delve into it, shall we? Sister Shawntell, of food is really kind of strange. It says that it's any nutrient by humans and animals or plants in order to sustain life and growth. And I said that this is a strange definition because if it's not sustaining life and if it's not allowing a person to grow properly the way they should grow, could it be categorized as food?
No, ma'am.
Because when okay, go ahead, talk about that. Let's talk about that, Sister Shawntell. Thank you.
Well, like you said, that according to their own definition, it sustains life. However, what we now know as food is basically a GMO chemical concoction masquerading as food.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
and like you stated, we have a lot of abnormalities with our health going on, and they don't know, quote unquote, they don't know why you have this certain type of cancer per se. Well,
Okay.
let's take a deep dive into that person's diet. What do they eat on a regular basis? And as you say, it's how the food is prepared. You know, um, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. That's okay. And I love your passion. And food is supposed to be something that is essential to life, longevity of life.
Yes.
Nutrients are basically proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, and most importantly, water.
Yeah.
None of these things in today's time is actually in its pure state. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, I know that I haven't changed what I eat. I haven't changed where I purchase my food. However, as far as nutrition and nutrients are concerned, I had more nutrients in my bloodstream 10, 20 years ago than I do now. So that's making me wonder and it's making me question exactly what is going on, what's happening with the food. I know that you're a mom, but I'm not sure how old your children are, but I know how old mine are.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're really scrounging around trying to figure out what is the best food that I should feed my children. And the food that's on the market today is not the same food that they were eating themselves. We have so many different types of artificial milk. In my opinion, if it doesn't come from a mammary gland, then it's not milk. It's a milky substance that comes from plants that may not necessarily be good for us as far as us consuming them as humans. I know that on page 7 of How to Eat to Live, Book 1, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, take time to prepare your own food. Do not kill yourself by running to the store buying processed food to eat. What did he know then that was trying to prepare us for today? Because processed food, dear sister, there, I know you know that there are three different types. You got primary, secondary, and tertiary. And for those of you who are not familiar with those terms, primary processed food is something where you got a cow out on the pasture, you bring it in to slaughter, you skin it, you cut it up. Secondary is the food that you make from other food. For example, you grow wheat, you mill it, you grind it, and you turn it into flour. Picking green beans or carrots and cutting them up is a form of processed food. The tertiary processed food is the food that we love to stop and buy for the sake of convenience. And it's everything that's in the frozen food section, everything that's on boxes on store shelves that has a list of ingredients that you cannot pronounce. The majority
Mhm.
of them are, majority of them, I won't say I'll have added sugars.
Mhm.
Sister Shawntell, delve us deeply into what it is that we're putting in our food.
You know, um, you can buy meat, for instance. It could be beef bacon,
Mm-hmm.
turkey bacon, pork bacon, whatever. It's meat, right? There's no labels. It's meat. It's not packaged like in a box where you have a paragraph of ingredients. So you're thinking you're just getting, just this piece of meat. However, that's how it used to be. Now, today, they're being injected with different chemicals. One of them is a nitrite. Nitrites have been proven, have been linked to childhood cancers, adult cancers as well, um, uh, neurological disorders. So that's why you'll find in some meat brands it'll say nitrite free. This is why. So while it's in a factory being processed, they do the manufacturers will inject meat with chemicals. That's just one form of chemical. Another form of chemical that meat is injected with is a hormone, artificial growth hormones. That has been linked to numerous cancers: prostate cancer, uterine cancer in human beings, uterine cancer, um, cervical cancer, you name it. These artificial growth hormones have been linked to different forms of cancer and other debilitating ailments. Also,
Yes,
when we
ma'am.
go in to purchase fruit, you thinking, okay, this is a peach. Well, is it? These peaches, they can be cultivated. Like they have these washes, these fruit washes. Okay, they say to clean your fruit when you get home. That's fine. However, what is inside of that fruit that they have injected it with? It's called GMO, genetically modified organism. So you just want to make sure, to the best of your ability, that you're getting the freshest, cleanest, um, unadulterated food that you can find or grow yourself.
Yes, ma'am. And sis, that's kind of hard to determine nowadays because, say, for example, if I have Anissa's farm, just a farm that grows produce,
Yep.
carrots, cabbages. I may have a contract with this health food store, with that health food store. You can come and get my carrots and my cabbages and my green beans,
Hmm.
my asparagus and my broccoli. And because of the agreement that we have, which is based and rooted in monetary gain for me,
Mm-hmm.
and for that purchaser, that they can go and take those carrots and put it in a bag that's got their label on it and make people think that,
Yes,
hey, this particular store grew that food on their own farm when it's not necessarily so.
that's true.
Well, it is true. I mean, and actually, I was so naive about that, to be honest with you, in the beginning. But when I realized that, and I realized it because they had a news broadcast many years ago about a breakout of salmonella, and they found it that it was rooted, or they found ground zero per se, and it was through some carrots that two different stores had bought that were very local and very popular. And I said, wow, I thought this particular store had their own farm where they grew their own food.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were speaking about the hormones, I thought about how the endocrine system is so very specific, and you have so many different hormones, and you have neurotransmitters, and that system in and of itself is a form of is a chemical reaction. The hormones, when they're, I'm going to say, dispatched to go to different cells in the body, and they all do something very specific. But when you have added sugars, you have GMO products, you have soybean products, and you have milk that did not come from a mammary gland, it synthetically alters how these organs function.
Mm-hmm.
It messes up the neurotransmitters in the brain to where instead of them meeting like this, they're bumping heads and they're not charging and discharging the way that they should. And that's one of the greatest dangers that we have in our community, when we're having a lot of children whose parents may know how to eat,
Mm-hmm.
but because were not healthy in the beginning, in the embryonic stage
Yes.
where the brain develops, and they're feeding their children food that comes out of a box. And then they're constantly giving them milk that's not real because it's made from hydrogenated soybean oil, the majority of it, because now everybody wants the convenience of having a powdered milk,
Yes. Yes.
not understanding that there's an actual process to get something liquid turned into powder, where you have to put water in it in order to make it constitute again, or to make it fluid again, or liquid again.
Right.
And all of that stuff is not necessarily good for brain development, and it isn't good for digestion. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the digestive system and the nervous system, especially the brain, are intricately connected.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so it makes me think that that is why there's such a large number of children nowadays that are on the spectrum
Mm-hmm. Yes.
for autism and different other they have a lot of different developmental delays, more now than we've ever had.
Yes. Yes. And what you said was so significant, going back to the white labeling, um, because that takes place in all arenas of beverages, um, food, teas, herbs, you name it. White labeling is huge. This is another reason why it's, um, people say try to shop local. You want to try to shop local as possible, and if you can, go beyond that. Okay, shop local. How about visiting these farms? Take a drive out
Yes,
to these
ma'am.
farms. Take a drive out to these companies. I know before COVID, a lot of these factories they did let the consumer come in and give them a tour. Um, so you would have to call and see what guidelines they have now because of COVID. And also, you mentioned a lot of children being on the spectrum,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
that is that is a totality of that. You have, like you just said, the you don't know what we're eating, um, and then the quote unquote milk, and a lot of people are getting off the dairy milk because they really do believe that they're lactose intolerant when we're not. What it is, the cow produces two proteins. One is A1 protein, the other one is the A2 protein. The A,
Correct.
the A2 protein is bioavailable for the human being. The A2 protein, it complements with our guts, so it doesn't give us a bad reaction like the A1 protein on the
But
market.
sis,
Mhm.
I think that there's I won't say there's truth to that, the lactose intolerant issue, but I know that it begs to question this. Milk has been consumed by humans on this planet since it was formed, since we were formed.
Yes, yes,
But I do in a lot of ways believe that because of the feed that they're giving the cows, because of the hormones that they're giving to the cows,
yes,
something has happened to alter the I'm going to say the makeup of the milk,
yes,
and it is, and because of the food that we're already consuming, it has altered how our bodies process the enzymes or the lactose, so to speak,
yes.
that particular protein that used to be functioning okay,
Right.
because the allergies that people are having today that are food related is very real.
Yes. Oh yeah,
It's very real.
it's
So
real.
it's to me, I always got to find out the why. And I think you the same way, because that's why we dig so much.
And so, like, the food, the drinks, we forget about our air quality. Those of us that live in predominantly black and brown communities, we take the brunt of the air pollution. We are constantly breathing in highly polluted air. If you are in a predominantly black and brown area, most likely poor area, you are breathing in toxins day in, day out. So then you compound that with chemicals disguised as food, compound that with chemicals disguised as drink, because even when we drink water, you can't drink water from your faucet at the house. You can't do that anymore. And then when you buy bottled water, you got more microplastics and other chemicals that's in the bottled water. So all this to say, one meal a day, fasting, prayer. That those three things right there. And I know if you are under the age of 16, if you're pregnant, one meal a day and fasting, that's not conducive for you all. But there's other ways that we can detox our system, mainly the kidneys and the liver. We got to pay great attention to, because those are detoxifying organs. There's ways to lessen our body's buildup of these toxins.
It is, but I am not. But let me state it like this: two of the greatest culprits in the decline of the health of the people, no matter what their social economic status is, no matter what race, ethnicity, color, or whatever somebody's going to claim, there is a deficit in the nutrients in the soil that our food comes from.
Yes.
There is a nutrient deficit in the actual seed
Hmm.
over time.
Yes.
And it is quite unfortunate that farmers are now being forced, financially forced,
Hmm.
to removing livestock from their farms under the guise of cows and sheep and goats emit methane gas, and is creating a problem with the greenhouse effect or the greenhouse gases. I'm sorry, but I just can't buy into that, because
That,
those animals help to tread or walk on top of the grasses that go back into the soil, that helps to put nutrients back into the soil for the next crop.
Yes.
In addition, their waste products is fertilizer
Mm-hmm.
for the ground. And for those of you who will say, but what about E. coli? You have E. coli already present in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural. It's a natural part of our processing of our own bodies. It's only E. coli only gets dangerous when it's not in your colon. So if you're eating something, that's because the irrigation system and the system by which your produce have been cleaned and washed was faulty.
Yes.
What is creating more greenhouse gases than anything on the planet is oil consumption. Created, as Sister Shawntell so eloquently stated, is causing a lot of air pollution. However, I believe in my heart that they're going after the farmers and the cows and the goats and the sheep because it's more economical for the oil industry
Yes.
and it's cheaper than for them to do that than to try to go backwards and correct what the oil has already done to the soil.
Mm-hmm.
The nutrients that are missing are the ones that are what they call the trace minerals, the selenium, the phosphorus, the manganese, the magnesium,
Mm-hmm.
phosphorus. Those are the types of nutrients that we actually need to go along with the vitamins that we're getting from the food that we eat. And because the majority of those nutrients come from the soil and they feed the plant. And when they feed the plant, whatever it is that's being grown, it becomes part of the plant. And therefore, it becomes part of the food that we're eating. There are many people, I'm sure, that have to take supplements, but the supplements that we're taking are not necessarily as healthy as we are led to believe because they're synthetic and not natural.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes. Okay. This is just one example, and you all can hopefully do more research on your own. Okay, ascorbic acid. If you all have
Yes.
bottles of vitamin C and you turn it over and you see ascorbic acid, what is ascorbic acid? It's made inside a manufacturing plant from GMO corn sometimes, and also it has been linked to hardening of the arteries, which leads to strokes.
Mhm.
So when we take any type of supplement, we want to make sure it's a whole food supplement, a GMO free whole food supplement. And
Right.
the brand that I like, because I have done research on this company. It's called Garden of Life. Um, right now, they seem to be, pretty legit. All their products are GMO free, 100% food based, and they don't use soy, they don't use kale, anything like that. So make sure that you're getting a whole food supplement because your body breaks down food. Our bodies don't break down in things that was made inside of a manufacturing plant. And then, like when you use the restroom after you taking these quote unquote supplements, and your urine is the color of the supplement that you took, that's not good. That's not normal. I mean, no. So
Sis, I'm glad that you brought that up. Please forgive me. I saw that I was losing power on my device. Years ago, I had toxins in my liver and I didn't know it. I spent off and on for about a year, maybe a year and a half. I would have to go to the ER because of upper right quadrant pain that was so severe that I would be doubled over. What I did not like about that entire ordeal was that because I was poor, well, I did not get the best treatment. I have literally laid up in the hospital for as long as 8 days and not saw, I did not see one doctor, Sister Shawntell, not one. Not one. Over time, I just stayed away and from hospitals because I wasn't getting any answers.
Mm-hmm.
And this was right around the time where Dr. Ali Muhammad started his Rural Clinic. And he did one of the autonomic muscle resistance testing on me. And it was non-invasive,
Mm-hmm.
invasive. And he learned that I had plastic, aluminum, mercury, and formaldehyde in my liver. And that's what was causing the pain. I assumed that the plastic was because of the microplastics, which now is becoming an issue. So imagine from maybe around 2006, 2007 to the present time, how many people have actually been drinking water out of less than food grade materials that they call plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably have plastic in their liver. The mercury, of course, more than likely came from the consumption of fish in toxic water. The formaldehyde was because I was drinking flavored coffee creamers. I was told by our good brother, Dr. Aline, that coffee creamers, at least 90% of the time, metabolize in the body as formaldehyde. And he advised me, if you're going to drink coffee, use raw milk or organic half and half. What he gave me at that time was standard processed products that took the toxins out of my liver, and then another regimen that I had to take almost at the same time to build up my liver to restore it. So it's a breakdown. It's kind of like metabolism. You
Yeah.
got anabolism, something that's anabolic, and then you have something that's catabolic, and that's what metabolism is. It's a breakdown process and a build up process, right? And so that is how my liver was restored, and that's how my life was saved.
Oh,
But imagine all this time I was thinking that I was eating to live.
yeah.
And that's why my passion is what it is. That's why I do what I do. Because food has now evolved into something that's weaponized.
Yes.
And again, it has nothing to do with social economic status. In a way it does, and in a way it doesn't. Because I have had to care for patients just as equally Black, Latino, and white.
Yes.
We're all suffering from the same illnesses, maybe not necessarily at the same rate, but we all have them.
You
And the
know,
ones that are least susceptible to certain illnesses for whatever reason are our Asian family.
yes. That's my point. Dialysis centers at one time, not too long ago, was primarily in Black and Hispanic communities.
Mhm.
It was you very hard pressed to find dialysis centers in a predominantly white area, like a upper middle class or even higher middle class area. Now, when I go for my drives and I'm driving through these areas, they have dialysis centers just as much as we do. And as far as the Asian communities, I did some research here in Chicago. Not one dialysis center in Chinatown at
That
all.
does not surprise me. It does
And
not
so,
surprise me.
and what they do is like when you go to senior living centers and rehab
Mhm.
centers, you rarely see an elder Asian person. Rarely, they keep their elders at home with them, and that's a
Sometimes,
yes. But while they're home, they are teaching them about they can go outside in the front yard and come back with something and throw it in a pot and tell you to drink it or eat it. They stick to their roots. So I believe this is why we're not seeing them on the same scale as us, but they're on there, but not like us.
but not as much.
Right.
Sis, here in Los Angeles, there was an influx or an increase of dialysis centers popping up in our community.
Hmm.
As God is my witness, they were taking out the grocery stores and turning that square footage place into a dialysis center.
Hmm.
And all I could do was just basically shake my head. And it wasn't like the store was not profiting from people walking to it, driving to it. It was local,
Yeah.
but they literally started replacing grocery stores with dialysis centers on one side and a drugstore, a Walgreens or a CVS right next to it. They took the food out and then they would put that there, and because of convenience, we've become a people of convenience. And we don't like to walk anywhere. We will have somebody that we don't know bring us food
Hmm.
from out of a kitchen, and we don't know what the condition or the state is of that kitchen. And that is why the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is so extremely important to us and for us. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says also on page 7 that for good, How to Eat to Live, Book 1, for good health, we should raise and prepare our own food. We must prepare and grow our own food because this is a highly commercialized world. They graft a lot of food, and some of this food is not fit for our stomachs. And it's not.
Hmm.
Soybean is extremely dangerous for us to consume. And why are they now genetically modifying the soybean and putting pork protein inside that soybean?
Yes.
And I think that is disgraceful and a slap in the face to the God that created it all. And so people, number one, I'm not even going to try to understand it, to be honest with you. I'm not. But think about how they're talking about plant-based protein. And
Yep.
they're talking about how soybean is so beneficial to the people because it contains the right amount of protein. So
Soy.
why would you try to insert pig pork, a hog pork protein inside a soybean that you already said contained enough protein to begin with? It's
Soy.
just a sick world.
It. Oh my God. And soy on its own
Hmm.
changes the guts bacteria.
Yes.
So just think, what is it going to do once the pig is introduced into it?
And for
I
them to put it on the market for human consumption is really against the Nuremberg Code. That's experimentation on people, on humans, and they're not supposed to do that. However, everything that we're looking at today is a result of some huge experiment that came out of the mind of a scientist.
Yes, and in How to Live. I'm sorry, I
That's
I
okay.
can't I can't quote the book number or the page number right now, but in How to Live, the messenger states that It's all about commercialization. It's about money, because it's the USDA, United States Drug and Food Administration, just approved the pork being introduced into the soy. Now, that doesn't mean anything just because they approved it, because it's on record that these quote unquote scientists, these food scientists and the lobbyists in DC are paid off. They get paid millions of dollars to make these quote unquote findings say whatever they wanted to say. So
Yes,
that doesn't
ma'am.
mean anything that the USDA approved it. It means nothing.
No, it doesn't. And I'm not even going to go there with what I was going to say. So I'm going to have to lock my lip on that one because I almost went there. I almost went there. And again, everyone, that if you're just now tuning in, we are on Minding the Mind. Our topic for tonight is What is Food Part 1. And I am eternally grateful for Closing the Gap Broadcasting Network for blessing me with the opportunity to share my passion of health education with the people. I really, really appreciate that, because this is not only is Closing the Gap a different type of platform, it allows those of us who are followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to come on and share the knowledge and wisdom and understanding that we have been blessed to receive from the messenger of God himself. And I know while you were talking, dear sister, I was just thinking about the problems in our Supreme Wisdom book. I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say once that whenever a prophet of God came among the people, the first thing that he did was change their diet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did through the teachings that he received from Master Farad Muhammad. And I am very grateful that he changed our diet, because when I'm looking at those problems, it's talking about, it's to me, I look at it as a prophecy.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea, because in the Supreme Wisdom book that I have, there's no publication date or year. But the wisdom has been here on the planet since the planet was found.
Mm-hmm.
And it's giving us a picture of the condition, the miserable state of condition that we were in when the master made his presence known to us. And we're sitting here looking at the uncle and the wife of W.D. Farad and living in the wilderness of North America. And the same problems that we have today, that's what the master saw when he came. And so he gave us a remedy for those ills. Eat one meal a day. Every 24 hours, every 48 hours, every 72 hours. And that would be the cure of all of our ills. And I know that I am grateful for How to Eat to Live. Because if I had not been exposed to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I never would have run into Dr. Ali Muhammad. I never would have learned anything about how to eat to live. I would never have learned how to cook my food properly from my MGT and GCC class. And it's a lot. I can go on and on and on about that. But I think about the problem book, sis. And I think about having the headaches and the rheumatism and pain in all joints. I think about having problems with the heart and your blood pressure going up, the high rates of blood pressure, registering off the chain. Because why does he fear now, sister? Because the devil taught him to eat the wrong food. And it's not just the wrong physical food that we're eating. We're eating the wrong mental food. We're eating the wrong spiritual food. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in How to Eat to Live, you can eat the best produce all the time, but if you don't have the right thought process, then that food is not going to help you.
Exactly.
And I find out that that is very profound. That thought is so powerful that it can actually change the chemical makeup of your body just by the process of your thoughts. And that's primarily due to how our brains are constructed with the different neurotransmitters. And, I find it so fascinating that God's creation is color coded. For every vegetable and fruit that is red, that is orange, that is yellow, that is green, that is blue, that is purple, that is white, they all contain the same phytochemicals to nourish our bodies. And for each color, there's a corresponding neurotransmitter that gets activated that helps you to level up in your thought processes. And we'll talk about that maybe on show number 3. But can imagine the majesty of God's wisdom for him to be able to do that. And for those of you who are listening, don't you let these Google searches that you call research tell you that phytochemicals are not real, because they are. And when you read the actual research studies, they will say that more research needs to be done in order for us to verify whether or not phytochemicals are useful to humans. I find that rather utterly amazing, ridiculous, and rather funny, peculiar. And I say that because the scientists of this world have studied the science and the DNA and the RNA and the makeup of every plant and vegetable on the planet that they have been able to locate and find.
Yes.
And every medicine that they have on the market that you buy over the counter or with a prescription, there's a phytochemical element in that medication. It's in that vitamin, because they know that there is healing, natural healing on the earth. And they are commercializing people. So they go into the lands where all of these produce, these herbs, the healing arts, they know what they are. They go in, they usurp these products from the original people in those areas, and then they come back, and then they go into their factories and they make them.
Yes.
And it's to our disadvantage that we have become so turned off by agriculture and farming. It's to our own detriment. And that's why Master Farad Muhammad had to come, because he's trying to save our lives to make us fit for the positions of rulership that are awaiting us. Can you imagine, Sister Shawntell, for the minister to say that this is just a wake-up message?
Wow.
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 The message that, listen, the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a wake-up message for us to make sure that we are physically, mentally, and spiritually prepared
Right.
for the new teachings and the new coming of God. Can you imagine?
Oh,
To me, that's powerful.
that is very powerful.
That is very powerful. I mean, something as simple as a red bell pepper and a red apple can increase my serotonin and my dopamine levels.
That's right. And those of us with low iron,
Come on.
liquid chlorophyll, green.
Yes. And the thing is that just looking at the color itself activates those neurotransmitters, looking at them.
That's right.
So we're not even talking about consuming the vitamins and the minerals and the phytochemicals from that apple or that red bell pepper or that carrot or that pineapple. It's looking at the color itself that activates it.
Now we're talking about color therapy.
Yes.
It's science, and that's what we are. We are science. We are chemistry. You can have a child on any spectrum of autism and give them color therapy, like you said, just looking at a color, eating a vegetable or fruit of a certain color can help them tremendously.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
ain't nothing but God.
Our contrary, I haven't delved deeply into it as yet, but contrary to popular belief, neurons can be regrown.
Yes.
You can rejuvenate new neurons in the brain. When the old ones die out, they're nothing but cells. And every cell in the body degenerates. And when you eat the right food at the right time, you grow new cells. And the best part about it is that every single cell in our body has the intelligence to heal itself.
Look at that.
So when you look at the physical law of elasticity,
Mm-hmm.
just to put it in layman's terms, imagine a water balloon. The more water you put in it, the bigger it gets, right? But if you pour the water out or allow the water to escape, the balloon is going to go back to its natural state.
Yes.
That's how our bodies work. That's how we are. When we remove from our bodies that which is making us sick, we will heal ourselves. We have the power to actually heal ourselves. That's why I haven't been there, so I don't know if it's written there, physician, heal thyself, because I've never been to Egypt yet. But the wisdom that we know innately as the original people, it's like I'm so fascinated now, more so than ever before, by the things that our grandmothers gave us, by the things that our mothers gave us and sent us on our way. I mean, think
That
about that. It's kind of
and
like, I don't feel good. Here, take this. Now go outside and play.
right.
That was their,
It seemed simple and basic, yet it was powerful. It was healing. It wasn't.
because we healed like that. They
Yeah.
gave us something and we were okay.
Yes. Yes.
We never found out what those things were until we became parents ourselves, and then we're on the phone. Mom, remember that time I had a, and it's like, what? So what was that you gave me again? Right. So, I love that. And actually I'm doing that with my own children who have children, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
why mess with perfection, Sister Shawntell? Why
They
mess with God's creation? That's my
they,
point.
they don't see it as perfection. They believe they are God. You see that they putting pig protein in the soy.
Say the soybean was bad enough and now you messing with it again. It's like, come on now. Because just for those of you who may not know, when you're in a lab, when you're talking about chemistry of things, heat changes the chemical composition of everything. So in order for them to make this lovely soy milk that you like, they have to heat the bean in order to process it so that it can produce this milky substance. And then they need it for the oil that you want to use to put in the food or to fry your chicken or to do whatever. And the byproduct of all of this heating, the byproduct is cancer.
Hmm.
And there are many people who won't believe that because there are more people and more research studies that have been conducted that are more in favor. Is skewed. I'm going to say that that's the public health scientific. It's skewed.
Hmm.
Why is it? What is to skew something? It means to tilt it in the favor of whoever is paying for that study. That's just being real.
Yep.
That's just being real. And even there are some instances, history has dictated that there has been some instances where you had companies actually pay an outside entity to do research for them, and then that researcher refused to skew the data.
Mm-hmm.
That person was paid, but that company still put out the product that they wanted to put out. And one of those companies is a tobacco company. I mean, there's so much is, oh my God, I loved college when I was going to college studying what I was studying, because it gave me an opportunity to delve into the whys of everything.
Yes.
That's the most prominent question in our Supreme Wisdom book is why.
Yeah, it's
Why this? Why that? Why this? Why does the sun come up? Why is the grass green? Right? Those are the questions that we ask as babies. Why?
exactly.
And so when the master came and he taught Elijah, why? Why isn't the devil settled on the best part of the planet Earth? Because the best part of the planet Earth belongs to the original people. And that is us.
Yes, ma'am.
And by the grace of Allah, that best part will probably, more than likely, I'm praying that it has what it is that we need so that we can heal ourselves.
Yes. And that question, why?
Mm-hmm.
That is the most profound question that we can ask ourselves, because take, for instance, you go in your refrigerator and you see milk in your refrigerator, and that milk has the letter D on it. You ever seen it with the letter D with a circle around it? That means that it's vitamin D fortified. Well, if the cows are actually out in the sun grazing like they're supposed to be, then they wouldn't need artificial vitamin D injected into them.
No, they would not.
And what is this artificial vitamin D doing to you?
I'm trying to figure out why people, especially if you live in a deserted area like Los Angeles, Nevada, Phoenix, Arizona, those are deserts.
Yeah, I'm from
A
the
lot
desert.
of sun out here. We only have two. They say we have 4 seasons, but we only have 2. Well, I take that back. It do snow in the mountains.
In the mountains. Yeah.
In the mountains, it does snow. But for the most part, there's a lot of sun out here.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that Los Angelinos have such high rates of low vitamin C? I mean, vitamin D. Vitamin D2 and vitamin D3 to be exact, sis.
Well, you need zinc to absorb the vitamin D. And like you said earlier, the soil's depleted. So when we're eating this food, we're not getting all the nutrients.
That's right.
We don't have the nutrients in our bodies to absorb the other vitamins and enzymes that we need. We're holistic. Nothing is independent on its own.
Sister,
Everything
oh my
works
goodness.
together.
This has been a delightful conversation, and I pray, Allah, that you are happy with how things are going.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will be back
Yes.
on May, I think on the 21st.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to come back and we're going to have part 2 of What is Food, part 2. And we're going to talk about, in this series, we're going to be talking about food additives and preservatives and what they do to our bodies. We want to help you to think twice before you put something else in your grocery cart. Because with appliances being the way that they are, if you want ice cream, you can make it from home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Summer coming. I know y'all want some ice cream. You can make your own yogurt sickles. You can make your own juice sickles by squeezing the juice from an orange and just freeze it. It's easy.
Yes.
Right? So I want to thank our producer, Sister Sheila. I want to thank you, Sister Shawntell, for being on the line. And I especially want to thank Closing the Gap Broadcasting Network. Without them, I would not be here. And I'm just so grateful, and I'm just so charged about this topic. So thank you all so very much, Sister Shawntell. Until next time, may God bless us all with the light of understanding. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.